everybody, and welcome to the wonderful world of football shirts, a football shirt podcast that's dedicated to all things football shirts. Or I will caveat that to no, I suppose it is still football. It's football related. It's football adjacent. We have a special guest with us today, but before we introduce him and talk about why I kind of said that weird stuff just then, I can't do this by myself. So I'm going to introduce my co-host, who is incredibly handsome, and he looks fantastic in front of all of his football shirts. He is the man, the legend that is Woody. Say hello, mate.
Hello. Thank you very much for that lovely welcome. And it's good to be back. And I'm extremely excited about this episode today. Very much so.
I haven't mentioned it yet, but you always like to remind people that this podcast, we can talk about whatever we want and share our stories. But it's always,
Absolutely.
What is it? What is this?
It's a safe space, Richard.
It's a safe space, that's right, where we can all share opinions. There's no wrong answers.
Nope.
That's all I'm saying. Jake isn't here today, which is, mad. He's just come back off holiday, so, he's allowed to be. But we have also got Helen. Say hello, Helen.
Hello.
Are you okay?
I'm all right. Yeah, not bad.
Today is a very special episode. We have got an incredible guest. We always have incredible guests on this podcast, but do you know what? I'm not going to do any more talking because I want to introduce John, who is a referee. Say hello, John.
Yeah, hi everybody. I think the you say is a referee. I think it was a referee. Has been long retired.
I have got photos of you refereeing a game not just a few months ago, my friend.
Yeah, that was sort of coming out of retirement for one day and one day only. And if you remember, initially I was going to do, I think it was 1/3 of the game because the Dutch referee wanted to do the other 2/3 or something because you split it into 3 minutes, but ended up, doing half the match. So back by popular request.
Yeah. So in short, I met John when we did Shirts v Boots. And I think it's fair to say, John, well, let's start again, shall we? I, as some listeners may know, did a park run, feeling a little worse for wear on the Saturday morning. It was a stone's throw from the hotel we were staying in. And I think I'm half asleep on the grass next to the start line. And John walks up to me and starts talking to me. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. But it turned out that John recognized me as being the man wearing the goalkeeper kit in the kit reveal party. And so from there on, John and I bonded.
See, this is something about a referee that you probably don't realise, Richard, is that we do our homework. And you only need to be spotted once the night before, as you were in the pub. And I realised this is someone I need to watch. Could be trouble. And but the thing, to be fair to Richard here, Woody, Helen, he beat me in the park run Saturday morning run, even though he was in the shape and how tired and emotional he was on the ground.
He's a machine.
It certainly was. He went past me, and as he went past, there was that sort of nonchalant nod. See you later at the game, sort of thing. But yeah, fair play. He all things equal, he beat me fair and square at Park Run. But that's where we met, and then we walked back together, and then had the game in the afternoon.
We walked back together and we shared stories, and it was that moment I said, John, come on the podcast, please, because these are stories everyone needs to know about. Because the thing is, as we have discovered before on this pod, we love football shirts, yes, but what do we love more? We love stories, and we love kind of people like telling and reminiscing about football. So, John, I want to start by asking you about, if you wouldn't mind sharing with everybody your career as a referee, where you started, maybe then how you got up through the ranks, and maybe explain the picture behind you.
Yeah, certainly. How long have you got?
For those that aren't listening, you'd have to describe the photo as well.
Okay, I'll start with I played football, got injured, ended up trying to come back from injury, was at university a Wednesday afternoon, running around a football pitch to get myself back to match fitness, when a game that I would have been playing in for one university against another was waiting for a referee who did not turn up. And it was suggested to me that maybe I could be more useful on the pitch than running around it. So I took on that role, and to my amazement, first of all, the game seemed to go very well, but I guess it would have been abandoned if I hadn't done it. So the players were sort of glad for that. But surprisingly, the referee who didn't make it to the fixture was about to be watched by an advisor that day, a supervisor. And he came up to me afterwards and said, "Have you thought about doing this? I mean, I understand this is your first game and you've never refereed before. That we have these night classes where you learn the laws of the game and put it into practice." And I thought, you know what, I'll try that. I was a bit reluctant, but this was the tipping point. And this was in Bristol. I went off, did the night classes, passed the test, and before I knew it, I was on a Saturday afternoon and a Sunday morning doing the local leagues in the Bristol and District League. That sort of took off pretty well. And then I went on to do a further degree, but in Wales, moved to Cardiff. When you move country, most people won't know this, you start again. And I've moved a few countries, as I'll explain in a minute. But when I went to Cardiff, I started again, Cardiff and District League, then suddenly on to the South Wales Amateur League, the Welsh League. Ended up being fourth official at Cardiff City on a game. And, I'd been doing this for a few years. Then I took a job, which took me to Holland. So I decided I'd referee in Holland for the 6 months I'd be there, start again in all the local Den Haag leagues and so on. Then I moved back to take a job in London and found myself being able to transfer from the Welsh League to the Southern League and to what was then, I think, called the Vauxhall Conference League and the football combination. Then the
good old days, John, Vauxhall Conference League.
Yep.
The good old days.
I tell you what, Woody, challenging, because if you're commuting into London for games and then suddenly you find yourself on a game in, I don't know, Barnet, Weymouth, wherever, it was a military operation to decide where to leave the car around the M25, which station, depart at lunchtime, get to the game, and then get back to Kent, where I was living at the time, in order to get up for the next day. I mean, honestly, it was something else. Then I moved to Scotland to take a job and started again in the Edinburgh and District League. But I found within 2 or 3 years, I suddenly was appointed to be a linesman on the Football League and refereeing in sort of reserve football in Scotland, and was promoted to Category 1, which basically takes you on to the Football League in Scotland. And within a season or two was in the Premier League in Scotland. Was fortunate enough to be promoted to the FIFA list of referees. And as you probably tell from my accent, I am not from around these parts here in Scotland. I still live in Scotland, which is interesting in a few regards, because initially you could tell from players and others that, hang on a minute. And then the penny would drop. Hang on a minute, he's not from around these parts. So he is not biased towards Celtic, Rangers, the Central Belt against others. But almost counterintuitively, my nationality played to my advantage. So I believe this is the case, that I remain the only Englishman to represent Scotland in international football in refereeing.
That's incredible. What time span was this over, John, then, in terms of from uni refereeing to Scotland?
15 years, but of course it kept restarting. Once I was in Scotland, and my family based ourselves here, then actually things went quite quickly, because it's a relatively small country, and if things go well, you can be seen early and progress quickly. So, to find myself on the FIFA list, I should say from mid-90s onwards. My first European game was in Luxembourg as an assistant referee. Avenir
What?
Began versus Galatasaray, and whoever would win
Wow.
would go on to play Manchester United. So that was quite an experience. That was within weeks. I think maybe even my first game as a Category 1 official, to go with other officials from Scotland to cover that game. So I was on the FIFA list basically from between 1994 and 2008. So over 14-15 seasons, refereed at Category 1 in Scotland, and took European appointments in various guises, including as a fully qualified European international referee between 1994 and probably 2006-7, something like that. But I'm sort of old school. I sort of feel with refereeing, if you weren't noticed, that was job done, rather than bring attention to oneself. So if nobody's ever heard of me and they say that to me, I say, well, that's actually good, isn't it? No, I haven't come to your attention. So that was my background. To just maybe briefly touch upon Richard's question about the photograph behind, I'm there with a line. Basically, it looks like Everton are lining up in the office to have a chat. And at the front of that is Wayne Rooney. This comes from Wayne Rooney's debut, which is probably little known, but it was in Scotland against Hibernian. And to cut to the chase, I think some Hibs players sort of realised that there was this rather talented kid, and decided to sort of single him out, but he could hold his own. So in a friendly, and certainly for me, in terms of a crime count, it's unusual to have 4 yellow cards in a friendly, one of whom was given to Wayne Rooney on his debut. So that's what that is. And frankly, he and Tam McManus from Hibs, when I've looked back at the game afterwards, because people remind me of it and send me, YouTube clips, I think they both think that Tam McManus and Wayne Rooney should have been sent off. I mean, they both got yellows, and it's probably telling a tale out of story out of school on myself. But David Moyes was the manager at the time, and I did go over to him and say, David, I think you've got a decision to make, because it's either him or me. Is Rooney's going off, or it's the end of my career, and it ain't going to be me. So I think I can probably say that I got Wayne Rooney substituted on his debut to save himself from what could have happened. Whether that's the right thing or not to do, I thought it was on the day to read the game, read the room, if you like, and intervene. So that's the story behind that picture.
Do you get rumours of these players coming through at these games? So, for example, Wayne Rooney's first appearance, did you have any kind of briefing before the game to say, this kid's coming through, bit of a hothead, keep an eye out? Not at all.
What I will say, though, is that team lines come in hour and a half or an hour before kickoff, depending on the fixture. And a representative of the club comes in. You might have some small talk around it, or they might volunteer something that you don't know. And on that particular day, I became aware that this kid, as far as Everton was concerned, was very special. And this was going to be his debut. Now, I don't know whether they say that to say, protect him, or don't go out there making a name for yourself, ref, just because you could. And I was one of these people that always wished to be respectful, unassuming, but take action when I needed to. Always be polite and courteous. Sometimes I think that could be considered weakness by players and officials, but actually, if you've got something about you and your personality, it's a strength. So to answer your question, Woody, I think it was more on the day, and then how, and the picture tells a story as well. Look at Thomas Graverton in that picture. He is protecting Rooney. So is Mickey Weir and Unsworth. These guys, they knew as well that they had some special talent and wanted to nurture and protect that, I think, for the club. And I read quite a lot into that photograph as a result. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. Yeah, it's a great photo as well. Yeah, thank you.
This is good. This is good. This is juicy. I could sit here for days and just listen, but I am going to kind of pivot slightly more towards the football shirts aspect, because another thing that you and I discussed when walking back from Park Run was the actually, instead of talking about actual football shirts, let's talk about referee kits.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that, because much like professional teams, you get given 3 kits, 4 kits sometimes at the beginning of the season, and those are the kits. Is that did you get sent them in the post? Did you have to go for a fitting? Which ones were your favorites? Which ones did you hate?
So you're quite right, but it's even more kits than you might imagine, because it's particularly if you're on the international circuit, because there is the domestic kit for the season, but there's also the FIFA or UEFA kits that you need to wear for games as well. So, you put in your sizes, and then in the case of the Scottish Football Association, they would have a pre-season meet, and you would go and pick up that kit, try it on, make sure it does fit, not just sent to you in the post. And we actually had photographs taken of us at conference or there, so that there was the new kit on us for any promotional matters that the SFA wanted to hold. The European kits were sent to the Scottish FA, and they after the Scottish Football Association put in our measurements and so on to them, having done that themselves, sort of tailor-made for the country. So that's how that worked. There were a number of kit changes over the years. I mean, if I could go with a worst in class and a best in class, I don't know if you want me to do that. I think you have a sort of kit 101, so maybe I'll hold that for shirt 101.
Let's save that for later.
Okay. So
well, let's just talk about your favourite. We're in a positive.
Yeah, the best ones were the ones produced by or for FIFA and UEFA. They were a sort of almost like a Gore-Tex breathable kit, so that whatever weather you were in, it responded well to the circumstance. And I have been in literally minus 16 degrees temperatures as a fourth official in Moscow, and
as a fourth official as well. Yes. You're worse.
And I have been in the 90s in places like Athens, and I remember Bratislava in a thunderstorm in this oppressive heat, and those kits could cope with those extremes. I mean, that is how good FIFA and UEFA kits were at the time.
They would have been Adidas. Is that right?
They Adidas? Were, yeah, they were. And and to tell you the quality as well, from the period around 2000 and 2000 actually, the millennium, which, funnily enough, was when we met Richard. 25 years celebration of the Euros in Holland and Belgium. That kit, which I wore in 99, 2000, 2001, is as good today as it was when it was given to me. And you may even remember I wore a blue tracksuit with UEFA on the back when we were out in Holland. That is from that era. That is how good the quality of that material is. I mean, some of the other stuff I've got, my personal clothes, are falling apart. That was really quality.
Did you only get one of each then, John? So did you literally get one FIFA one?
Two. Two.
But you were responsible for taking them to every game. Like, you had to wash them. Yes. You had to do all of that.
Yes,
wow.
And there were two kits, because one was long sleeve and one was short sleeve. And in that era, from memory, it was yellow grey and green with a black band across
Oh,
here.
the Adidas ones,
Two
yeah.
strips. So when I travelled with 6 strips because, and maybe this will be interesting to you and your listeners, that first of all, on European games, I would have to travel to be at the ground and be on the pitch 24 hours before the game. So that would mean travelling out the day before. Then on the day of the game, in the morning, there was a 2-part meeting. The first one was about the police, fire, ambulance, any other special circumstances. So it's more of a business game management thing. And then halfway through, you pivot to the second part, which is the clubs. And what they had to do ceremonially is come in and put out their kit, the top, the short, so the shirt, the shorts, the socks, and the goalkeepers. Then the other team would do the same. And then we'd make sure that there was no clash between any of those permutations. And then and only then would we decide short sleeve, long sleeve, grey, green, or yellow or another colour. So there was quite a bit of theatre around this whole thing to ensure we minimised the issues in the lead up to kickoff, because it wasn't beyond the wit of some to then actually change something. But no, we've got a record of what it is, and this is what you've got to wear. You can't change at this stage. But that was all done at sort of a 9:30 to 11 o'clock in the morning for a game that would kick off at 7:45 in the evening. So there was quite a lot in terms of the kits and the strips to work through from the get-go.
Rich, can I ask a question? Sorry,
of course,
I know you're going to go. Can I just quickly jump in, John, with so particularly what comes to mind when you say about the kits and deciding who wears what? Mm-hmm. So obviously 96, 97, Chelsea play away at Coventry and forget their away kit, and they end up wearing Coventry's away kit, don't they?
I've had this in my career.
Oh, right, okay. So is that the referee's decision to go, we've got to get the game going, you've got to wear that kit?
Yeah, so I'll take you through my example. Great question, Woody. Cimarron playing Kilmarnock, Premier League of here in Scotland. The first thing is that it's through in Paisley at their former ground at Love Street, and a sort of a sea mist or a fog descends on the pitch. So I've got enough going on, whether this game is going on or not, right? We don't have in domestic football, at least here in Scotland, or didn't then, this rigmarole I've just described in Europe. It was a case of you only discover this probably in the warm-up or even as the strips are coming out. So sure enough, Cimarron play at that time in black and white stripes with black shorts. Kilmarnock are in dark blue and white stripes with blue shorts. In a fog. For those of you watching in black and white, there are 2 teams, but no one would ever be able to tell. So what did I do? Manny, and maybe I'll come back to Manny, the kit man at Kilmarnock later, because there's another story that I'd like to share with you about him. He was a great guy, and he went to Norwich actually when I think Stephen Naismith was playing at Norwich and others. So there's a Kilmarnock connection there. Anyway, where am I going with this? Kilmarnock's strip clearly clashes with Cimarron. There'd be no way people would be passing to each other, and spectators in the fog would not know. I wouldn't know. So I said, well, this can't go ahead. Maddie says to me, it's got to go ahead, John. We haven't brought the second kit. We've left it at Rugby Park down in Ayrshire. What? So I have to go to the Cimarron dressing room and said, well, we're not giving our kit to the opposition. All right, well, we haven't got a game. What are we going to do? Manny, can you get down to the shops in Glasgow and buy a kit quickly? Any colour will do, as long as it's not black and white or blue and white stripes. At which point, I think Bobby Williamson was the manager at Kilmarnock at the time, and I was quite friendly with some of the lads at Cimarron, and I think they realised that I was serious, that this game, unfortunately, would not go ahead. So Samiran played Kilmarnock, or I should say, Samiran Strip played Samiran second strip, turned, I think, inside out. Because
No
it also
way.
was some sort of grey or black. No, I'm dredging from my memory because of your question, but we got through the game and it was televised, and I think it caused a lot of confusion as to what the heck were Kilmarnock wearing in that game. That must have been a special fourth kit that nobody had ever announced, because they didn't want to play. That's right, they didn't want to play with the St Mirren badge. So in the end, they turned the strip inside out. You've reminded me, but that was the craziest thing that I had. What else could I have done? The game was played. No one talked about it afterwards.
Yeah.
In fact, probably nobody's mentioned it between whenever it was and now. It could be 20 years ago.
And televised as well, which is incredible.
Yes. Yeah, they did struggle with the fog. And then I think we had to use a yellow ball as well, so that at least they could see that.
Wow. I had 2 points that I really wanted to mention, and first one is to you, Woody, because we talk a lot about player spec shirts and stadium shirts nowadays, and we're always talking about the quality, what's it like, what's the difference. This is the first time I've ever heard anyone involved in football comment that professionally made for professional shirts are as good quality as they are. So that's really nice that works. I quite like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And John, the second thing is, you were saying you had to pick the shirts. Was it just the referee, or did you, as a little group of your officials, the team of officials, all come together and conflab about, I think this might contrast with that? And would you have differing opinions? And not to caveat, but to add on to a little point, which is something we've spoken on the pod before, do you ever take into consideration people that were watching telly in black and white, or maybe are colorblind, things like that? Did that ever come into consideration or not?
So on the first point, I prided myself in trying to ensure that the refereeing team were empowered to say anything, whilst realizing that I owned the ultimate decision. And that not just around shirts, this is on the field of play. I would say to them, don't leave something that you will regret later, or get into the dressing room and say, I saw that, but I didn't tell you. I would say to my assistant referees, linesman at the time, fourth official, if you see something that you think I need to know, then say it. And then that buys me time. I have a decision to make whether I accept that or no. I've seen something and I'm going to go with my decision, but I really appreciate you bringing it to me, rather than having the regret factor that they would see something and not say it. Now, to your point about shirts, the same applies. That if I was a referee on a game in Europe, the strips were out, before I actually jumped to a conclusion and said something, I would say to the other three guys, the two assistants and the fourth official, do you see any problems? And ask them to tell me. If they didn't, then my tendency, of course, would just simply go with my original decision. If they pointed something out, I would consider it, and on occasion say, you know what, I think you're right, I'd missed that. What else have we got? Have we got something else that could be used as an alternative? So that's the way that I sort of conducted myself.
Nice. I like that, because I suppose in reality, your view as a referee would be slightly different to that of a third official, right? So linesman, or assistant referee, whatever you want to call them, because I guess they may be more side on. So if they see more of like
correct
panels on the sides clashing,
that's exactly the point. Because if you put strips down flat, what we've quickly realised in early games is that side on, when you put an arm up, this might have a different colour, and that colour might clash with the opposition. And imagine a hand going up in a penalty area, it hits it. Is that a penalty, or is that a free kick to the defence? And those sort of things you need to take into account, learn from, and almost have a menu and a checklist that if you just assume what you see straight away, you'd miss that. And that is exactly why I tried to ensure that all voices in the room were equal and valid, and took notice of that. It also, I hope, built up more of a team. We're in this together than, I'm the man, I'm the referee. Da, da, da. No, it's really important to take, because actually at the end of the day, those individuals, they've got to be absolutely at the top of their game and feeling comfortable and able to articulate something if they see something to me, and know that will be welcomed.
Yeah.
And by the very nature of what I've said, that wasn't always the case, I would say, in refereeing teams. And, we're all different personalities. And so that's just the way that I felt was going to get the best out of the group of us to do the best job on the day.
Did you work in a team? Like, did you have a consistent team, or was it like you got thrown together? Like, you got the email through on the Wednesday for the Saturday to say, this is your assistants, this is your third, fourth. And you're like, oh, I've worked with John before, I've worked with Paul, I've worked with Ringo.
So there was, I can honestly say, hand on heart, there was never an occasion where I had the luxury of choosing my assistant referees or fourth official. It really was down to the appointments secretary of the Scottish Football League, the Scottish Football Association, the Premier League, and indeed the Football Association, Scottish Football Association, who would go with me on international appointments. That is not so much the case now. There is more of a team spirit, and indeed in Scotland there were one or two groups that were operating at the very highest level that were quite a close group of small pool of officials. As I was going into international football and working my way up through, under 17, under 19, under 21, whatever, and all the way through what was the Cup Winners' Cup, UEFA Cup, these sort of things. The SFA, to be fair to them, needed to blood new talent as assistant referees. So the obvious thing to do is for them to come with someone like me into that. But there was one or two games, I have no doubt that the appointment secretary at the SFA, Drew Herbertson, who was brilliant, actually, absolutely brilliant, very thoughtful, adept at working out who would work well together. I have no doubt on occasion he thought, oh, actually, that's going to be a really tough game for John. He's going to Lechia Warsaw versus FC Utrecht, very intimidating atmospheres. I need to pick a couple of people who have got experience at this level to be with him. But I
love that. I just think that is so good.
I did find, Woody. So I will share something with you. I think you can tell I quite like chatting away and trying to use my personality to work with players and officials. So in a way, I think it was to my detriment, because I became a sort of very popular fourth official, not least amongst European delegates who would watch the referees, because this will sound, I don't know what it will sound like, I'm going to say it anyway. They seem to think that I was the English translator for the Scottish refereeing branch, that they could understand me. And so but the trouble is, I kept getting fourth official appointments as a result of it, not refereeing so much, But I went to weird and wacky and wonderful places, and once I went to Moscow for 2 games within a fortnight. And when I went back, we were staying in the same hotel, and they thought I was a local. Back again. So, but they could understand me because of my accent.
Brilliant.
Oh, that is superb. So you're kind of saying you're forming relationships with delegates. Did you form relationships with managers as well and players over time?
So relationships is a bit strong, I think. It's more like acquaintances and you would hope mutual respect. I felt that it was really important to keep a distance, in the sense that you never know if you get too friendly with somebody that it might be misconstrued, or they could take advantage of that. And there could be at any stage with any player a moment where you have to step in, show a yellow card, red card. Same with managers. So I felt it was really important to not get too close.
Yeah.
But at the same stage, and I'll try and answer your question, fully and frankly. Yes, you got to know, and they got to know you, and test you. Those officials, those managers, the sports psychology of the game was intense. Maybe we'll go on to talk a bit about that. I would always conduct myself by trying to learn the players' names, because there could be at any stage a moment where I need to use that as a tactic to disarm a player as to, how does he know my name? Someone like Paul Gascoigne. He at any one stage was like a flick of a switch. But if you could get him out of whatever zone he was in at the time by using a name or another tactic, yes, I would do so.
Don't you call him Paul?
Or Gazza, yeah.
John, you refereed Paul Gascoigne.
So these guys were all around in the era that I was here. Trevor Stephen and Henrik Larsson and these guys.
Laudrup.
Yes, Laudrup, Sutton, Hartson.
This is incredible.
That was the era. So I tried to learn names. Now, this is the bit, because you could have then another player saying, well, hang on a minute, how do you know his first name? And I would then disarm them by saying their first name. Because if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to be all over this, really have done my research, know the players. And Fernando Rickson, God rest his soul. I would speak to Fernando before a game and say, Fernando, it's me this week. Can you just leave it out? If you're going to cause trouble next week. Now, he was the sort of guy, if there was on the field a challenge, either on him or on one of his players, he would immediately be looking for who had kicked him or kicked his player. So my tactic, although I would still go and clearly talk to the player, maybe caution the player that committed the foul, I knew I didn't have a problem there. I had a problem in 2 or 3 minutes' time. So I would then say, Fernando, we've got a deal, haven't we? You're saving this for next week. I've got this under control. Just leave it. And as soon as he did what you've done there, Woody, which is smile with his eyes and his mouth, I knew he wasn't going to be trouble in 3 minutes' time. And that's what I mean about stepping in and putting out a fire before it happens. And if you do so, as a referee, nobody knows, but the players do. And I haven't brought attention to myself. I haven't had to send Rickson off in 10 minutes' time. Now, some people would say, no, hang on a minute, that's too much of an intervention. I would say I'm trying to let the game flow and be about football, not about a referee. If it's referee-centric, we've got something wrong, surely. It's got to be about the game. And so game management and sports psychology is absolutely key.
Oh, absolutely. But a challenge goes in, for example, and you're in a huge stadium, the atmosphere is incredibly imposing, it's loud, your eyes are on the challenge, but you're on players like Fernando Rickson at the same time.
Yep.
How on earth can you concentrate and make those decisions as accurately as you do with all of that going on around you at the same time?
I do think, Woody, it is amazing that the correctness of decision in a game, let's say we have 100 decisions, you probably will remember the 2 we get wrong, not the 98 we get right. And at the end of the day, that's like air traffic control, isn't it? If you have a crash, something's gone wrong, you remember it. Yes, you've got to learn from it. But actually, most of the time, flights are flying in the air and landing safely and transporting people from left, right, and centre. So for me, there is a link there about our tolerance for risk and acceptance. And I'll come back to that maybe with VAR. And whether referees advocate their responsibility now that we've got VAR, because it's no longer a decision that we need to make, or someone else can. And I understand that, because if you're making that decision on what you see and you're not too sure, and you've only seen it once at speed, then what you're going to do, you're going to play it safe, aren't you, and put it out to VAR, because your career, frankly, the rest of your career with one bad mistake could end. So you're going to do that. Sorry, I've gone a bit off piste there, but I think the disarm. Oh yeah, I know what it was from what you said. The crowd. I'm going to share something with you that unless all four sides of the stadia, which of course can happen, are all singing in unison, actually, when you're on the field of play, it is just a wall of noise. It's almost like background noise, and so that isn't the big factor, because that's there all the time. Just this noise, this ambient noise, and so I would, and this will seem odd again. Let's imagine it's that game behind me, Everton versus Hibs. I'm just thinking, blue and green. You know, which challenge, which sock is that coming in? Which arm is that? Which player is committing a foul or knocking the ball out for throw or whatever? Yeah, you are so focused. And again, what I would say is that you had to have a level of fitness, which of course I no longer have if Richard can beat me at park run. But at the time, the fitness levels were going higher and higher and higher. Yeah, I actually had to train for the fitness test, because the fitness test was different from the on-field movement I was doing, because there was a lot of backward running, sideward running. So I'll share with you a little fact here that when we started wearing these GPS devices, to my great surprise, but perhaps it shouldn't have been, that when whichever league I was in, from lower leagues in Scottish football to international football, there was a kilometre jump between each division. It was absolutely striking. So in one game, without extra time, this was, I think it was my first middle as a referee in Europe, was an under 19, could be 17, international in Denmark, between Denmark and Holland. Many of the players that went on to have fantastic careers, Van Persie and others, were playing in this game. Now, I ran 13 kilometres in that game in 90 minutes. In other European games, I've mentioned the Legia Warsaw game, I think I ran 12 kilometres. In Premier League football in Scotland, it was between 10 and 11 kilometres a game, absolutely, almost invariably. And then 9 in the Championship, and 8 in Division 1. It was absolutely striking. Now, you had to train, not only, in my case, for, imagining I'm refereeing on a Saturday in Premier League, midweek in Europe, Saturday again. So I could, once my fitness was up, the game fitness was telling, but I was having to ensure that my fitness was there not only for 90 minutes, but potentially, imagine in Europe, extra time, penalties, 120 minutes or beyond. So I was training as though I was needing the stamina for 16, 17, 18 kilometers, just in case I needed it. And the reason I share that with you is that, frankly, if you're not physically fit, mentally you get tired as well. And of course, the key decisions all of you would remember tend to be those at the end of the 90 minutes or 120 minutes. And if you're tired mentally because you were tired physically, you might get something wrong. So actually, even during the game, thinking about at halftime and at the end of the game, being prepared to take on fluids and fuel to ensure that you've got the energy and the engine to keep going was also vitally important.
Crikey. Incredible stuff. Sorry, Rich, back to you.
No.
Back to you, host.
Back to John. Tell us more.
Can I tell you? I'll tell you my unusual shirt moment. Can I? And it will partly go back to
absolutely
Manny, the kitman at Kilmarnock. So, as they were increasing the fitness test, and I was coming to my final season, in Scottish football. And because at the time there was a retirement age for European football, that caught Kalina and others at 47. So, but in Scotland, you were allowed to continue for another year, but there was still an age limit. They've done away with the age limit now, so that if you're, fit enough and good enough, you can carry on into your 50s. But at the time, there was that limit, and I did consider when I came off European football whether I would continue for my final season in Scottish football. And I have no idea how Manny found this out, but he took me aside at I think it was the penultimate, maybe the final match of the season. This is about 2007. And he said to me, don't forget, you're a long time retired. The boys and I have been talking about it, and, we think you should carry on. You got a pre-hit for your last season, you should carry on. And I said, Manny, it's really good of you to say that. Thanks. And off I went and did the game. And there's a lot to talk about this game, because it was Aberdeen versus Kilmarnock appeared, I think this is true, I mean, you might have to check this, on what happened next. Not because of shirts, and I will come back to the shirts in a minute, but during the game was the most unusual goal scored that I have officiated. The goalkeeper for Kilmarnock had the ball in his possession in the 6-yard box, and Darren Mackey, who was a forward for Aberdeen, was retreating away from the goal when the keeper threw it out. It hit the back of Darren Mackey's head, and I don't think the law of physics even allows this to happen, because he was moving away, but the ball rebounded over and into the goal.
No way.
So in what happened next, I think they had the keeper bowling it and stop, and then said, what the hell happened next? And nobody got it, I don't think. Anyway, so Jim Jeffries, who for some time, I think he managed down at Bradford City, but he was up here pretty infamous or famous for for managing, coaching Falkirk and Hearts. Did really well with Hearts here in Edinburgh, but he was the manager of Kilmarnock. Anyway, he took his eye, because all he saw was the keeper had the ball in his possession, and he and Billy Brown, his assistant, then saw the ball in the back of the net. So they're going mad because they've assumed there's been a foul. So I have to go across and say, well, Jim, it's like this. Your keeper threw it out. It hit the back of his head and it went back in. And I left them going, what? You cannot be serious. And I said, watch it on the telly later. Anyway, we go to the end of the game, and actually, there's another story I've got to tell you, which is relevant to this. Earlier in the same season, no, it must have been the season before, Stephen Naismith was a real young talent coming through at Kilmarnock. And I was refereeing Kilmarnock versus Celtic on Sky, and we were at half-time and waiting for the tic-tac man to say, you can kick off. So I'm at the centre circle, Stephen is there, and I can tell he's out of sorts. And I said to him, what's up, Stephen? You're not your normal self. And he said, I've been down on trial at Arsenal. I've been rejected. I'm back at Kilmarnock. I've sort of lost my way a bit. And flippantly, I said to him, Stephen, cream always rises to the top. Class always tells. Didn't think anything of it. Right, we get to this game, Aberdeen Kilmarnock, and walking off. As we go towards the tunnel, which is in the corner of Pittodrie, Stephen comes running up, and he says, man, he's told us about the last game. If it's your last game, thanks for what you said earlier in the season. Here's my strip. So I'm holding this strip, right? And then Russell Anderson, who I still know very well, actually, Aberdeen captain, goes running out. We can't do that. I said, Russell, it's like this. Could be my last game of the season. I said something earlier in the year that helped Stephen. He's doing this. Oh, in which case, here's my strip. So I'm standing now like some sort of clothes horse collecting strips. Can you imagine the phone call the next day from the supervisor who has watched the game Robbie Harold was his name, and he was from Aberdeen. And he rang up and he said, "John, before we start, could you please explain what on earth was going on in the corner at the end of the game?" It just looked farcical. It looked like you were about to do the washing. And I thought I was laughing. And at which point he said, "Oh, I didn't know that. Perhaps I'll be a bit more generous with my mark." I was thinking, this is incredible. So there's my unusual shirt story, and various other aspects of that day at Pataudry, which and the thing was, I did referee the following season. I decided to up my fitness training, train really hard to pass this now even more stringent fitness test, and I got through it, and one or two people didn't, and I think a lot of people were thinking, how on earth has John done this? And so I ended up refereeing that final season, which was a pleasure and a joy to do, and ended up my last game was 2 days after Rangers came back from the UEFA Cup final on the Saturday. I think they played on the Thursday night or something, and it was either it must have been on the Saturday, because they were playing at Motherwell, and I was almost like the Star Trek expendable referee, because that was going to be my last game. And so, SFA, fine, even if you mess this up, it doesn't matter really, you're off, we can always say you were rubbish. But that game went extremely well for me personally. Rangers were 1-0 up at half-time, but they ran out of all energy and steam. Motherwell equalised, and the rest is history. Celtic won the league. Unfortunately, I didn't make any mess ups in that game. No one could pin anything on me. And to this day, Craig Brown, former Scottish international manager, the only score of 100 I've ever got on a game was from him on that day as an SFA delegate. Now, he may have been, it's your last game, nothing to lose, give me 100, mate. Or it might be, bloody hell, that was a difficult game. All you could do is make a mistake, and be remembered forevermore. Here you go. But the reason I remember that day so well is that I'm originally from Portsmouth, and Portsmouth played Cardiff in the FA Cup final, and our game at Rangers was on at 12. After finishing, I went back home to join my son and watch the Portsmouth versus Cardiff, and then in the evening went to a retirement do for another referee, Kenny Clark, up here. That was a pretty full-on day, but I remember it, clearly. And so I did do that last season, and Manny teased me when I was at Kilmarnock, because he said, "We better have those kits back, because we came to you last season, but you're back." I said, "Well, I'm only back because you told me to be back, Manny. It's a bit late now." Yeah, sorry, that's my shirt story.
Well, that's not a problem at all. Now we're on the kind of theme of shirts. There is one question, and one question only, that I ever ask our guests to kind of do a bit of thinking about, because as listeners know, it's a bit of a fluid conversation. It can go wherever it wants, and today's no different. But I have one question, and that is, obviously, as listeners will know, Football Shirt Room 101. Now, for those who are new to the pod, may remember a TV show in which celebrities would bring items to enter into Room 101, and I can never remember who it was. I know Frank Skinner did the reboot of it. Was it Paul Merton?
Paul Merton, yeah. Yeah,
Paul Merton would pull the lever, and one of the items would go into Room 101 and never be seen again. And with us being football shirt collectors, enthusiasts, I thought, hey, why don't we do a Football Shirt Room 101 and get our guests to put in Room 101 what they think would be a good thing to never see again. Woody's one, yours was football shirt patterns for the sake of pattern's sake, wasn't it? That didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And I like that now, and that's one I kind of stand by. I'm a bit bored of just random patterns.
I knew you'd come around.
Oh, I always come around eventually. So, John, I've given you some time to think, and I would list off some of the ones that have already happened, but I think yours is going to be quite unique. So over to you, John.
Yeah, so I sort of have put a shirt in room 101, so I better describe that really. I refereed a cup final up here, but the strip that we were using at the time was a particularly, I don't know what you'd call it really, clingy, heavy, awful material. And if it rained, it felt like you actually had extra ballast to get around. Now, that was the strip. It was by a Danish manufacturer whose name escapes my memory, but we had, or at least the Scottish Football Association had a 2 or 3 year deal with these manufacturers. And despite it being a cup final and a shirt that I would, in all other circumstances, treasure, I donated that to the Hampden Football Museum because whilst I couldn't quite see myself binning it to 101, it wasn't the most favourite amongst the whole of us, and for me in particular. So I wasn't sorry to see it go, but I guess when I look back, maybe I do have regrets that I didn't keep that one and give the other ones that we got that season away. But because it was used in the cup final, I thought that was the appropriate to give. So that's my story there. It was yellow.
Was it embroidered on the shirt as well, though, with the final details on it for you?
It wasn't. So that way made it easier for that to be.
Was it Dinsport?
Yes. Well, you've done your homework while we've been on. Yeah, it's the yellow.
It wasn't that one, was it? The yellow version.
It was yellow version. Because
there it is.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that is the shirt that.
Would you like me to buy it for you? It's $20 on eBay.
If you wish to,
John, this is the best part of it. This is on American eBay, so someone in America owns a 2001-2002 referee shirt.
Do you know, that may even be the one that I gave away that I regret doing because it was the cup final. And yeah, look. Give me that website. I might even go and buy it myself just out of posterity and as a mark of respect to this evening's podcast, which I've really enjoyed.
Well, what was the game, John? What was the final? Who between?
This was the Challenge Cup final, that particular one, between Queen of the South and Brecon City, as I remember.
So, forgive me, but what is the equivalent of that trophy? Is that like the Carabao Cup here?
No, because it would be like the cup, which is for Football League and National League teams. Although at the time it was only for Scottish League teams, not in the Premier League.
Got you.
So it didn't
auto win screens,
and that made it. Yes, it made it easier for me because it wasn't something like the Scottish Cup final or the League Cup final, those type of things. But having said that, there is a something about that clearly I have a slight regret about.
But all in all, it had enter into room 101 because compared to your Gore-Tex Adidas, this one was dreadful.
Well, do you know, Richard, when we were in Holland for the tournament in Enschede, the game between shirts and boots, what impressed me was that the referee kit that was supplied was that 2000 kit that was so good. And, you know, it was used by the Swedish FA, and I noticed that the kits had clearly been bought from the Swedish FA or off eBay, and the new badge that we wore on that day was covering the Swedish symbol.
I remember.
Well, there we go. Do you know what? I'm pulling the lever.
Pull it.
But
Absolutely.
We're going to try and find you that shirt and get it back to you.
Okay. I haven't talked about Dig Advocaat, Nuri Katspire, Martin O'Neill, Alan Thompson, the Hibs Hearts fiasco when Burley was left at the bus stop, the headline that was Underhill slams Blatter. We haven't got on to, which is actually a rare case of a headline that has aged very well. So, and Woody, you may not know this. I think I said to Richard that I was the first person to use VAR in the Sky Masters, and I'd happily talk about why it's going wrong and the protocols that are needed, because actually it saved my reputation.
No
was
way.
A complete and utter shambles on the day, because neither club knew, Bolton Wanderers and Tranmere knew that I was going to the TV to watch it. And the situation, I'll just explain this to you, that there was a shot from Tranmere who were losing 3-2 in the Sky Masters final. Question was whether the ball crossed the line, and I didn't know, so I played on. It went for a goal the other end of the field. So it's either 4-2 or is it 3-3? Off I go to the TV, and it wasn't 3-3 because, lo and behold, someone had handled it on the line. So I had to disallow a goal. I had to send a boy off for handball. I had to give a penalty. Tranmere scored. We went to extra time. They won 4-3. Again, they would have lost 4-2. Now, as a result, I went into the dressing room, and at the end, the commentator for Sky knocked on the door and said, John, how long do you think it took you from shot to handball to go? And I said, a lifetime. It was awful. I thought, this is it. I'll never be asked back again. And then I went out to look at the thing, and it only was 32 seconds. The whole thing. It felt minutes. So anyway, then Sky, because they are actually advocates for bringing it in, start showing it and speeding it up. Shot, handball, goal, penalty. The decision gets better and better and better. I kid you not, when I came back, I think it was in Liverpool, the final, when I came back to Edinburgh, I was stopped in the street by people saying, that was brilliant, you should come back, all is forgiven, you should never have retired. And I was saying, yeah, but you realise I would have made a mistake without VAR. They didn't want to know. It was just that it was the right decision. So I think VAR could be a good thing. It would cut out the decision like Thierry Henry and other things. But it has been brought in without the protocol, and it looks to me as though people are seeking to disallow goals. And in my day, if you're level, you're on the side. Why are we looking for fingernails with which you can't score and small extremities of a toenail? So there's work to be done. But I think there's a discussion that maybe we could have in the future, which is around VAR and various things. And I'd love to share my stories about Terry Butcher, who I think you would love. I think you would love these.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I feel like that's an invitation to
part 2.
On part 2, yeah.
And Malaysian betting syndicates, and what happened between Celtic and Livingston when the floodlights went out before kickoff on Boxing Day, and why the game was 45 minutes late in being finished, and all the implications. That was Roy Keane's day when he was introduced to the crowd. We had the 3 tenors singing, the Glaswegian version. All sorts of stuff to share with you if you want to.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we can find the time. I mean, if
that bit at the end there, you better not include that bit, because otherwise you've got the next episode already.
That's the trailer.
Teaser.
Yeah, we'll have a teaser. We'll have listen to John talk about Roy Keane and the 3 tenors.
He returns.
Yeah, I'll share with you how I 1-0 when and over. It always run past me. I said earlier, amateur and a professional sport. You've clearly not played this sort of stuff. And I said, well, I have actually, Neil. I played to a decent level. It was only because I got injured. Who did you play for? All this sort of stuff. Then the team that I was associated with went on a mazy run in the FA Cup, and the SFA. I think this is right. I think I said I can't referee this weekend because I'm going to go and watch Havant Waterlooville play down at Liverpool at Anfield. And
that was then, yeah.
Havant Waterlooville went 1-0 up, and at half time we're 2-1 up. At Anfield, something like the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup. Anyway, because I'd said to Neil Lennon in passing, "Oh, yeah, I'm having a Waterlooville." You know, "Who? I knew you did it. You didn't know what you're doing." So anyway, because of that game, and I'd closed the weekend, but the SFA had said, "It's all right, John. We've put you on the televised game on the Sunday, so you can go down to Anfield and come back." Who was on the televised game but Falkirk versus Celtic? And in the tunnel before kickoff, Neil comes up. He says, "I've heard of them now. Fair play," and sort of gives me a bit of a cuddle. And the trouble is, this is all captured on TV, and Rob McLean or whoever's commentating is thinking, Lennon's gone mad. He's gone soft in the head. What on earth is that all about? And there's the backstory that nobody ever knows. Doesn't know.
All of your moments are caught on TV. So you're taking shirts from like Aberdeen and Kilmarnock, and then hugging Neil Lennon.
Yeah, there are the all-seeing eye of TV. There's no way to hide. VAR tells you that, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, well, we've got the hour, so we are going to have you back on, because I know there's a couple of questions I want to ask you in stories.
Well, wait to see what your feedback is, because people say, "We never want him back again." Do you get feedback?
Yeah,
How many people watch
also,
you?
It doesn't really matter. That's the big thing about it. We enjoy doing it, and we do it because we have guests, and we talk about subjects that we want to talk about. So if we want you back on, it's because we want to listen. And even if it's just Woody's mum and my mum that are listening, it's just the four of us listening, then that's all that matters.
I'll have a clipboard next time, John.
Yeah, and you haven't met Jake yet, so you'll have to meet Jake, and I'm sure he will be obsessed with your stories as well. So before we go, let's just we kind of just say goodbye to each other. Woody, if people want to follow you on social media, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram at WoodyW1988 and that 90s Premier League podcast.
Very good. Helen, if people want to find you and ask for help in producing and editing and the like.
Yeah, you can get in touch with me at crabsalom.com. And can I just confirm, John, what's your surname?
Underhill.
Underhill. Great.
Yeah,
because
UNDERHILL.
I think anyone listening is going to want to go and look up those stories and fill in all the extra details, because they were brilliant. That was so
That's
exciting.
what I'm doing next.
Yeah, right.
I've just sent you the video of that goal. So
have you found it?
I found it. Yeah, it's on Facebook. I've just sent. I'll tell you what, do John. I'll send it to you as well.
Yeah. Brilliant.
It's phenomenal, because he literally throws it. He's 3 yards away from me. He throws it at his head, and it loops up.
Like the question is, should I caution the keeper as well for throwing the ball at that velocity at someone's head? I actually thought he didn't probably mean that, but it was going to be a goal. So I was busy handling. I don't know if you capture in that video, the YouTube, Jim Jeffries and his. Because he goes completely apoplectic, thinks there's a foul, and then I have to calm him down. But yeah, I'm glad that's cool. You can actually see the I'm telling the as it is.
Yeah,
exactly.
John, I'm going to be honest and say you don't strike me as a type of person that's got a very active social media account. I might be wrong there, but if people want to find you, are you on the social media?
They will be able to find me probably on. There is a Facebook account. There is LinkedIn. Obviously, through my professional career. Again, that's something else we haven't talked about. Part-time, full-time. Because at no stage was I full-time within refereeing. I had a second career. You have to have a sympathetic employer in that regard, and family and work around all that. How do you make it? All happen. So I can be found and through either route, really. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, obviously, you can just type in any of those games we've spoken about. You can find them on social media and YouTube anyway. So that'll be what you want to see. John, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I'm so glad we found the time to get this done. And I will be looking forward to having you back. And yes, it's my pleasure. It's our pleasure to give you the pleasure to say goodbye to all of our lovely listeners.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, Richard, Woody, and Helen, for asking me and affording me the privilege to speak to everyone. I hope the stories were of interest. I can only call it as I see it and the experience that I had, but very much enjoyed the conversation, the questions. Apologies if I went on longer than I should have done in some of my answers, but hopefully it was informative and educational and enjoyable. And if it was, then I'll be pleased. But thank you very, very much indeed for inviting me on.
You're
Thanks,
right.
John.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
All right. That's it then. Thanks everyone for listening. We are at Shirts Pod on Instagram and the Wonderful World of Football Shirts on YouTube, and you can search for us on Spotify at the Wonderful World of Football Shirts. Don't forget to do all that likey, subscribey stuff, but I don't care if you do it or you don't, because we, as I said already, we do it for the love of it. So thanks everyone for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Right, and I'm going to press end.